What's up, guys? It's your host, Spartanic Arts DxD, back with another high school DxD related video. And today we have What If Issei Was Betrayed. If at all possible, let's try to hit 300 to 400 likes for this absolutely amazing video. And if you guys want to know exactly when I upload / my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button. That'd be absolutely amazing. It'll be the first link in the description, the first link in the comments, the first link on the premiere as well. And that's absolutely amazing. So, let's go ahead and thank my balance breakers and my Juggernaut Drive members. VR Wolf, Lachlan Yates, Cool Ninja 12, Dark Phoenix, Anthony Lewis, and Ant Lewis. Thank you so much for becoming a Juggernaut Drive member. As for my balance breakers, Ziki2000, Nuga Booga Ooga, and Arditz Krenzi. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. Seriously, I cannot appreciate you guys enough. There was a sneak peek of What If Issei Was Betrayed Part 10 over on my Patreon. If you want to see more unreleased stories or unreleased videos that have to do with this series or anything in general, go ahead and join my Patreon. And without being said, thanks to my Patreon members: Smells Noise, Lachlan Yates, Godkiller, Dragon33171, Colt, Mark Bacon, WebRex771, Logan Kolar, Just Zeke, and Abraham Soto. Thank you so much for becoming a Patreon member. This episode was pretty fun to record, I'm not gonna lie, and a lot of cool, interesting plot lines in it, and I cannot wait to see Devlin get his butt whooped, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So thank you for the support, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into What If Issei Was Betrayed Part 10. Chapter 12. Issei and Volley stared down one another. The tension was there as they sized each other up. It's good that you've been kept busy since I last saw you, Volley said. And why's that? Issei replied. I wouldn't want our fight to be short-lived, Volley said. Oh, I see. Should have known. You always look for a fight, Issei said. Aren't you and I similar in that regard? Volley says, smirking at Issei. To an extent, Issei says, chuckling, as he knew Volley was referring to his underground fights. Anyway, good to have you back, Volley says, holding out his hand. What's this? Issei says, gasping, or mocking him. The Volley was first swallowing his pride to welcome someone. Issei says, I'm beginning to reconsider, Volley says. Wow, you did quite a number on him, Lavinia said, turning to the mage, who blushed as she realized that Issei could smell her off Volley. I probably should thank your other girlfriends as well, but she is not here, smirking back at Volley. Shut up, Volley said, about to drop his hand. However, Issei grabbed it and pulled him in for a brotherly hug. It's nice to feel welcomed, Issei said. Thanks for holding out for me for the past year, but I'm really not back for the factions. I'm not going to be their weapon, Issei says, as he released Volley from the hug. So why did you make a return, Issei-san? Tobio says. For them, Issei replied, nodding to sleeping Lilith and then to sleeping Kano. My family. I'm their shield and their sword. They need a place where they shouldn't have to worry about anything. They're kids and shouldn't need to face the concept of war like I did when I got thrust into the world, Issei says. Though Lilith was involved in past war, having been Rizafim's bodyguard before she defected, she had even taken hits from Fafnir in his outrage. But being made from Orphis, she was unscathed. Issei just didn't want her to go through that again and let her live out her life as a child. When her parents adopted her, she changed her eye color from gray to brown to match them. That's just like you, thinking of kids, Tobio says. They're part of my future, Issei replied. Tobio gave a nod. Before either of them could say anything, a brunette blue blur appeared in front of Issei and grabbed his hands. Hi, my name is Monogama Natsume. So you're the Crimson Dragon Kun, huh? I really wanted to meet you. I've been following all of your TV shows, you know? Oh, thanks, Issei said. He had a blush on his face. She was very attractive, with brown hair and hazel eyes. He made sure not to look at her body and check her out. But her enthusiasm reminded her of Irina, and it made his heart rate quicken a bit. Wow, you look way better in person, says, thank you, Issei said. Those around him laughed, as it was similar to old Issei and how he interacted whenever he met a beautiful woman. He was enamored by this woman because she reminded him of his missing mate. Feeling her hands on his felt right to him. Oi, bird brain, give the man some space, you're embarrassing him. A handsome man with the appearance of a delinquent. Natsume groaned in annoyance, but before she could retort to the man, Issei gripped her hands and stiffly pulled her behind him, now making her blush a little. I'm sorry. Who are you? Issei says. My name is Samijiji Koki. Well, I also like big breasts, I guess, the mysterious person said. Good to know, but next time, please don't insult her or we're going to have a problem, Issei said. Oh, is that right? Koki said. That's right. Now glaring at the man, his dragon instincts were telling him to protect this woman and also claim her. It made her wonder if that was due to her similarities to Irina. Natsume was at first shocked, but then smirked at Koki and stuck her tongue out at him, trying to goad him into possibly attacking Issei. Through it made her curious as members of the team Slash Dog were credible fighters on their own. She wondered how Issei would fare against Koki. A year and a half ago, without his armor, she believed that Issei may lose. Now that she wasn't sure, as Issei had made leaps and bounds in the supernatural world in just a year. Now he's an additional year and a half to get stronger, if his destruction of Chaos Brigade bases were any indication. Knock it off, you two. Shoin, you can introduce yourself, gesturing to a young woman with dark blonde hair with double ponytails, Tobio did. Hello, my name is Nanadara Shigin. I'm a member of Team Slashdog, as she stepped forward. It's nice to meet you, Shigin-san, earning a nod from the young woman as she stepped back in line with her team. And that is my team, Tobio said. If I may ask, Issei, do you think that you can beat them? Nodding over to the Grimoire group. Without your sacred gear? Huh, that hurts, Tobio. Do you not have faith in me? Issei says with a smirk. You're right. I guess I shouldn't doubt you, since I helped train you, with a chuckle. Well, you've met my team. It was nice to see you again, offering a handshake. You too, Issei replied with another handshake. Now come on, Natsume, we have to get going. What? But I wanted to get to know Crimson Dragon-kun, hugging Issei from behind. It was then Issei noticed that Natsume's breasts were larger than they appeared to be, once he felt them on his back. You can talk to him later. He always can swing by Black Dog Bar, Tobio says. Fine, Natsume says, turning to Issei. Thanks for looking out for me, kissing him on the cheek before she unwrapped her arms from his neck and walked off with Tovia. Lavania, are you coming with us? Tobio says. I think I'll stay for the day, hugging Volley like Natsume once did with Issei. Very well. Hope to do some missions with you, Issei. And nice to meet you, Minerva said, Invigol's-san, which the two ladies nodded. It was easier for Minerva to do it than Ingold, since Invigold was holding Lilith, who was being watched by Orphis. As she moved to Invigold's side to check out her sleeping pond, she likes seeing Lilith happy and living like a kid. See you around, Issei says, as Team Slashdog went out towards the Shamazen to leave back to the Grigor to get debriefed. However, before they left, he was sure that Insumu winked at him. Hyodo, it's good that you came back. Now we can fight. You owe me a rematch, Ko said. Get in line, Volley replied. I didn't think you would show up, Ko, Issei says. Ha, you're right about that. Guess I got lucky that you would be here, Ko says. I suppose so, Issei replied. I look forward to your raiding game against them, Ko says, nodding towards the Grimoire group. Likewise. To which Ko nodded with a smirk before going to interact with the others. Issei-san, when you have time, please come by. Handing a transport seal to Issei, I'd like to go over your categorizations of the necromorphs. If I may ask, how would you categorize the necromorphs that you have faced in your recent missions? Tsuchuka says. I call them slashers. It's a pretty simple name. They're just foot soldiers, but they are erratic in their movements. Alone, they aren't much of a threat, but as a group, they are a problem. In addition to them being dead, you cannot detect them. It's probably why you lost some of your forces. They can't be sensed by us, unless they have a magic signature like the enhanced ones, Issei said. So we only face their foot soldiers, Tsuchuka replied. You've only been facing slashers, Issei says. It appears so. This is troubling. You seem to have faced much more than that. For example, that UMD dubbed as an infector, you may knew what it could do. It did turn that Chaos Brigade member into a slasher, as you call it. As I said, please come by when you can, so we may go over your categorizations, although it would likely be after your raiding game, Tsuchuka says. I understand. And thank you for what you did with my former pieces, Issei said. It's not an issue. Take care, Tsuchuka said, before leaving the room. With the Tsuchuka gone, Issei wondered where Suzex went. Since Invigold and Minerva were conversing with the team Volley, Citri Parage, Agaris Parage, and the Phoenix Parage, Ko's team seemed to have left. When Tsuchuka came to speak with them, he expected to find Suzex with the Grimoire, but he was actually speaking with Yakuza about something. It seemed that Yakuza was giving him advice about something. He tried to read their lips, but he couldn't understand their words. Looking back, it seemed that Invigold and Minerva were holding their own. From what he could see, Minerva was fascinating the Parazes with their teleportation magic. He would know, considering when she is in the mood, she teleports their clothes off their bodies. Invigold and Volley were talking about something, probably of how they were the kind, being descendants of the original Mao sacred gears. Of course, Invigold was shifting Lilith to be a more comfortable position to sleep. Seeing them get along made Issei feel better about coming back. They probably could help show the two ladies around Ko. He felt someone was trying to sneak up on him and could only smirk as he knew who it was, and he turned around to surprise them. You can't sneak up on me, Rose-chan, Issei said. Wasn't trying to, Rose Visa said as she pulled him into a hug. It's good to be able to see you again. Physically, I mean. I did say I would come back for you, Issei said, holding her against him, but not too tight because of her armor and pulling it back a little. I see you made some changes to your armor, Issei said. Instead of wearing a leotard underneath, she wore a black bodysuit, so she didn't sew much skin as before. Her hip guard was no longer flared out. It was a bit smaller and conformed to her hips, thighs. In addition, she now wore small shoulder guards as well. He deduced that she looked like a metal grip from her guard to make the shoulder guards, since they also had the same design as the rest of her armor. Being white, gold, and pale blue accents, he also saw that she did not wear wing-shaped hair clips, either earpiece nor boots. Yes, Rosweisa said, I found it more tactical and easier to fight in, almost similar to the remnants of the Red Dragon armor, but with a Valkyrie theme to it, Issei said. Really? Rosweisa replied, I've never seen that armor. It is a sub-balance breaker? Yeah, one of the few, Issei says. Guess you didn't laze around, that's good. Yeah, neither did you. Congratulations on the promotion. Promotion? Rosweisa said, I never told you about my promotion. I know. Kiba did, essentially. Accidentally. Ugh, Rosweisa says, looking over at the Grimoire Knight, who had a bored expression listening to his mistress and her boyfriend. Hey, it was an accident, Issei says, taking her chin so she can face him. I'm proud of you, leaning to kiss her. He didn't mind showing her public affection because the majority of people were too busy to look over in their direction. The few that did had a range of different emotions. For Kuroka, it was envy. For Minerva and Ravel, they had a smirk. And for Lunar, it was anger. I waited 18 months for you to do that again, Rosweisa said, smiling at his kiss. Well, I had 18 months to practice. I can tell. I met your companions. Minerva is quite powerful. No wonder she could help you learn from the book I gave you. Invigold as well. You know she kind of looks like the mother of your child. Huh? You're right, Issei said, looking at Invigold, still holding Lilith. If Lilith had purple hair, she would have passed as Invigold's Issei's child. Maybe she will be one day, but after I finish school, I know that nothing will impede on my family's peace. As expected of you. You think you can beat them, Rosweisa says, nodding towards the Grimoire group. I got some tricks that I didn't show Kiba and Gaspar on the mission, Issei says. I'll be alright. So are you going to tell me about her? Nodding at Zenobia, who was listening to what Minerva was saying. Yeah, Ravel and I started talking to her after the incident. You mean Lunar's betrayal? Kiba already told me, Issei said. Yeah, never seen her so alone, so broken, so despondent. She was aware of her mistake and she had apologized for her comments that night. She realized who her friends were, and added that when Ozzy and Rhea saw the footage, they never apologized about how Zenobia was ousted. Even worse, during her recovery, the bastard wanted to have his way with her. Had Ravel and I not come for a visit, he probably would have. Don't know what Ozzy sees in him. He sounds like a combination of Yatatori and Deodora. And she thought I was bad, Issei said. It's due to his gentleman aura. It's just a front. He tried to make a play at Irina as well, Rosweisa says. She told me about that, but she never said the name of the guy because she didn't care to listen to what he had to say. You know she cut her hair, right? Rosweisa says, really? I thought she was considering it, Issei replied. I didn't think she would do it. I know I made a comment about it one time when we showered together. So you have sexual encounter with each of us then, Rosweisa says. Yeah, somewhat. Wait, you shared a shower with Irina and Mark. You sucked my breast and you had sex with Ravel before you asked. She was quite proud of her new Mark and she has a slight limp. At least I know what to expect if I go all the way with you, Rosweisa says. Issei could only blush at chuckle in embarrassment. Going back to Signovia, she has grown as a woman, Rosweisa says, and you should take pride in that. You helped her turn around, otherwise she would have still been an airhead, causing them both to laugh. You think you can talk with her, Rosweisa says? In time. I'm not mad about her, at least she's maturing. I do wonder how I'll get how Irina to talk to her, though, Issei says. Yeah, every time there has been a meeting, I sometimes couldn't talk with Irina because she didn't want Zenobia near. I would then have to deal with a depressed Zenobia. She just wants her friend back. And my forgiveness as well, Issei says. Probably would be the key to getting Irina to talk to her, Rosweisa says. Well, since you're her king, I guess I would have to ask you about taking her on a mission then, Issei says. It could be a start, but be warned, she'll get excited about talking about her weapons, Rosweisa says. Other than Durandal and Excalibur, Issei says. Yes, and her magic has improved. I would say that is thanks to you. You've always been a wonderful teacher, making Rosweisa blush slightly after the compliment. Thanks, Rosweisa says, and then she noticed something over the corner of Issei's shoulder. We'll talk later. Someone would like to speak with you. Turning around, Issei was met with the sight of Kuroka. It took a lot to not focus to let his eyes roam her body. Hey, Kuroka says. No Naya or flirtatious attitude? Who is this? Issei said, then answered Kuroka. Hey. I'll let you two talk, Rosweisa says, giving a quick kiss to Issei and heading back to the others. So, can we talk, Kuroka says? Isn't that what we're doing now? So you traded? Right, so you traded out the kimono for a catsuit. Oh yeah, it's more practical for stealth. Are you naked underneath your kimono? No, Kuroka says, blushing immensely. Sorry, no. I'm just teasing. You look good. You put a little muscle on as well. Oh yeah, I use senjutsu in hand-to-hand combat as well. Sorry if it bothers you, I can stop. Why would it bother me? Issei says, because I'm related to her. gesturing over to Konako, in who's subsequently watching the interaction. And, Issei says, you wouldn't want me to instill my stupidity into Kanu. I wasn't as good as a sister. If I was, Sharona wouldn't have done what she did, Kuroka said. No, if you were a bad sister, she would have been experimented on, or worse, dead. She was in charge of her own actions that night. Placing a hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry, Kuroka said. I know. Volley has said that. When we met a year ago, Issei said, so you're the fighter that he was talking about, Kuroka replied. Pretty much. What were you doing in an underground fight? Kuroka said. Needed something to do when I wasn't killing necromorphs and blowing up bases, shrugging his shoulders. I see, Kuroka says. Anyway, you can keep training Kano-chan. It probably helps Yasa-san out. Yaka-san? Kuroka said. Yeah, she's like another mother figure to me. I got closer with Kano-chan. I didn't see her as my daughter. I wasn't mature enough to be a father, and I'm still not. Over time, I saw Kano as my little sister. As I did Lilith-chan, of course, I did force Lilith away because I wanted to remain hidden, and she was likely to get me targeted, which it did. Hence, Volley finding you, Kuroka said. Correct. But now, it'll be much easier without having to worry about the factions finding me, so my parents will love having Lilith back again. She'll be likely living with them, so my mother can spoil her. That sounds nice, Kuroka said. It is. But we're getting a bit off topic. After I saw Kano-chan as my little sister, my talk to Yasa-san has changed. She wasn't teasing as much anymore, and I asked about her former husband. She realized she still loved him, and I couldn't fill that void. I was just a pervert. Issei said, no, you're not, Kuroka says. I was. Yasa-san began to encourage me like a mother would, telling me what you were about to, how I am not just a pervert. Anyway, at some point, Kano and I called her Ka-san when she called out for us and she accepted it. That's nice, Kuroka said. Anyways, you don't need to apologize and keep doing what you're doing. I don't have to forgive you because you did nothing wrong, but if it makes you feel better, I forgive you. Thank you. Can I? Kuroka said, can you what? She simply opened her eyes, which Issei shrugged and opened his arms so she could give him a hug. Kuroka hit her face in the crook of his neck and simply patted her back. Thank you, Kuroka said, letting out a deep sigh, as a weight had been lifted off her back. Hey, Issei. Yes? I know you will face my sister in a raining game. Try not to hurt her too badly, Kuroka says. I can't promise you that. All I can say is that I won't kill her, Issei says. Well, that's better than nothing, Kuroka says, letting out a deep sigh. Thanks for that. Anytime, but I have a question. What's that? Who's your new addition on your team? Issei says. Kuroka says, pulling away from his neck. The new guy? He's with Faye, listening to Minerva pointing out over his hands. Oh, you mean Theo, Kuroka says. As she looked over at the dark-haired young man, he's LeFay's boyfriend. Oh well, I should have introduced myself to him since I don't know him, letting go of Kuroka, who pouted a bit at losing Issei's body heat against her. Unknown to them, some of the Gremory girls also pouted a bit at the hug, especially Konako. You have a hot girl all over you, and you want to go talk to a guy, Kuroka says? Ha! There's the Kuroka I know. Well, it's any consolation I enjoyed having you hold me, as he walked off to greet Theo, not seeing Kuroka lick her lips in anticipation. One woman's trash is another woman's treasure. Thanks for the catch, Sharone. Before following after Issei. Excuse me, Issei said as he interrupted Minerva. Well, look who decided to join us, Minerva says, turning to get a kiss from Issei. Had to make some amends that were 18 months old. How are you? Sekigahara-san, Issei said. And here I thought you forgot about me, Sekigahara said, smirking at his friend. How could I forget about my awesome friend? He froze in fear at Sekigahara's glare. Sorry, Sekigahara-san. He scratched the back of his head and chuckled nervously, while Leviathan could only facepalm and shake his head. He knew that Issei would never learn how to... would continue to call his mistress by that childish name. So, she might as well accept it. Otherwise, I believe that Sekigahara might have to strike Issei for his insubordination, as she put it. How have you been, Olivian-san? Issei says, fine. Though if you weren't so stubborn, would you stop calling my lady by the childish nickname, Olivian says? Can't help it, you know? Issei says, I'm aware. Hi, my name is Issei Hyoto, Issei says, holding out his hand to Theo. They say your name is Theo, right? The young man had brown hair with a slight tint of red, wore a white coat with black gloves, pants, and boots. He also had some syringes strapped to his right thigh and staff strapped to his back. Oh, yes, it's nice to meet you, sir, shaking Issei's hand. Don't call me sir, I'm not my dad, Issei said. Sorry, Theo replied. Hi, Issei-sama, this is my boyfriend. Wanted to introduce you to him earlier, but, you know, LeFay said. Oh, no worries, LeFay. It's nice to see you again, Issei replied, then turned to his attention back to Theo. You're not hurting her anyway, are you? No, shaking his hands. If I did, Arthurson would have killed me, Theo said. What's in the syringes? Oh, they're my potions. These would help me get the user a boost in strength for a short time, similar to the effects of your boosted gear. It's what inspired me to make these. I've tested them. So far, no side effects, Theo said. Oh, a bit of a scientist like Ajuka, huh? Somewhat, but I'm sure he and his angel could make this in their sleep, Theo said. Hey, don't cut yourself short. Keep up the good work, Issei said. Thank you, sir. I mean, Issei-san, Theo said. No problem. And Lefei, you can still call me Isu. We're still friends. So how did you two meet anyway? Oh, well, it was at the party. We started talking about your show and just kind of went from there. You watched the show, Issei says, raising an eyebrow at Theo. Yes, if I'm being honest, I prefer the new iteration over the older one. That makes two of us, Issei said. Knowing the Opie Dragon name was being replaced with the Crimson Dragon, he also didn't want to corrupt the kids with the perversions that were in the show. Put the show in a new direction. My siblings love it, Saji said. You can thank my wonderful manager, Ravel-chan, for that, Issei said. Thank you, Issei-sama. Thrusting her chest forward in pride being acknowledged. So were you guys talking before I interrupted? Issei said. Minerva was talking about one of your mini base raids. Although, how did you end up getting engaged to a goddess? Momo said. That was help to me, Imagol says, joining the conversation with Volley, Lavinita, and Orphis. Imagol, you don't have to talk about it, Issei said. It's fine. You see, when I met Issei and Minerva, we had been attacked by some necrophores that came from the sea. I panicked and created a tidal wave. I was singing a song about going to sleep because I used to have this sleep disease. Similar to what Cyreorg's mother had, huh? Sanji said. Not similar. It was the same thing, Issei said. During one of our excursions of the base near the Greek faction, I collapsed, Imagol said. And before I could get to her, Nyx appeared. She had seen us enter and was waiting for us when we got out. She had seen Imagold collapse and used that to her advantage. In the past, she and her brother, Iberus, created three beings. Thanatos, the strongest Grim Reaper, Hypnos, the Greek god of sleep, and Oranos, the god of dreams. They are capable of healing Imagold from her disease. However, there was a catch. That catch was for our dear old Issei to get hitched to the goddess of the night and, of course, handling any of the other bases within the Greek faction, Minerva says. Damn, Sanji replied. I didn't agree to it at first, but Imagol wasn't waking up, so after a week, I gave in. Nyx had me give me a transport to her domain, accepted her offer. She used creations, and so far, Imagol hasn't fallen ill yet, so I guess she kept her word and I kept mine. Issei said, to which I am grateful for as I can continue living a normal life, even if there's another woman after Issei. Imagol says, well, I think you and Minerva will be fending off more than one woman, Sona says. Oh, we're quite aware. The group laughed at the same time. While this was going on, the Gremory, BL, and Bale groups were conversing about Issei's arrival, but upon the Raymond game, the only people that didn't really care were Kiba, Gasper, and the BL Parage. However, the BL Parage, it was out of guilt as they didn't know how to approach Issei. Well, he's quite arrogant. He shouldn't be a problem for us in our raiding game, Devlin said. I'll ask my brother to join us. He can act as a pawn for Rias or you, Devlin, Aaron said. Good idea, Kia. I have a question. Sure, what is it? How glad was the Kendo Club with Issei gone? You're friends with them, right? Rias said. Not really, but they were happy about it, since no one was perverting it. Motohama and Matsuda were too busy enjoying some new porn they got. Akia says, are you thinking of adding Kadase or Murayama to your Parage? Yes, the more the merrier. I'm sure they wouldn't mind beating down Issei for old time's sake, Rias said with a smile. Quality over quantity, Kiba says. What's that, Kiba-san? He said quality over quantity, Gasper said. What's that supposed to mean? It means it doesn't matter how many people you add against Issei, he's going to win, Kiba said, remembering how Issei fought in the base, how he ripped those necromorphs' arms and used them at his own leisure. Did something happen on your mission? Akka said. Yeah, well, if you add those two to your Parage, Lunar can train them. Seriously think about it. He did something to your father, Akano. Without even touching him, he put you down in one hit without raising his power. Arion, do you really think we stand a chance? Kiba says. Of course, Devlin replied. I can think of a plan to take down that pervert. You'll join us, right, Cyreorg? Devlin says. Cyreorg, who had been looking off at Issei, turned towards Devlin and stared, and then he looked at Kushia. Kushia gave a slight shake of her head, and Cyreorg knew what she meant. Sorry, Devlin, but all of your plans haven't worked out. Maybe against the Chaos Brigade soldiers back then, but things have changed. You've lost people to Necromorphs because your plans are outdated. Other Parages figured you out, and your records in the raiding games have been subpar, Cyreorg says. So? This time it's just one guy. I know I knew he's beaten you before, but he won't be able to use his armor, Devlin said. Do you forget what he told you? How you're a high-class demon in just name, not power? I'm sure you know this, but his power without his armor before he left of a high-class demon. It's been, what, 18 months? Tell me, Kiba, did he ever use his armor in your mission? Sourorg says. No, not really, Kiba said, shrugging his shoulders. So he's stronger, isn't he? Strong enough to beat those necromorphs without it. Did he use it against that enhanced necromorph? No, he didn't, Gasper said. Very well, I will fight him, Sourorg says, which made Devlin and Rhea smile until Sourorg continued, but on my own time. As he instructed his Parage, they were leaving all and walked out the meeting room, seeing that Sir Zex excused himself as Yasusan and Seraphol went to speak with Issei. Of course, this action made people quiet down, and Issei's face became neutral. Excuse me. Sorry to interrupt, but Hyodo-san, I was hoping if you would accompany me. I still have some people that would like to see you, Sir Zex says. Issei pondered about this. He knew that he could possibly see his big sister and little brother. However, that was only if Kiba said was about true as Sir Zex Rias having a falling out. Though he had no reason not to believe Kiba either, there was also a matter of getting Kano and Lilith to bed, so Imgold could not come with him, otherwise Lilith may wake up. Accompany you where, exactly, Mao Lucifer, Issei said. To my castle. I would like to surprise my wife and son upon your return. I don't mean you to helping us because you have not set in your terms on that, just that you are in the underworld. I see. Then Minerva will accompany me, Issei says. That is fine. I was going to ask if both of them will accompany you as well. I don't think so, but I will need to inform Yakuza-san of where I would be, since he saw her as a mother. Felt that she should know where her child should be. I understand, Sir Zex says. Moving out of Issei, made his way over to Yakuza-san. While that was going on, Rias was seething because she knew that Issei would get to meet her new niece before her. She clenched her fists, but after a moment, slumped her shoulders and sighed. She steeled herself, knowing that if she won, it would prove that she was better, while Issei reached out to talk with her. Hey, you think you will be alright? Issei said, of course. What do you take me for? I mean, it's just that Ryoga, Issei said, I know it's how she will deal with it. Looking down and stroking the sleeping Kanu's head. Yeah, I think this will brighten your night as well. When you return, we can talk. You still have yet to show me, Yasusen smiling at him. Ha! I know, Issei said, smiling before turning to a frown. Issei, we will get those people for what they did to Ryoga and the others, turning them into these monsters. Do you understand me? What's done is done. There's nothing we can do about it now. For now, go with Sir Zex. I'll see you when you get home, Yasa said. Okay, Issei replied. Good, now be a good boy, Yasa said, rubbing his cheek. Remember you are a member of the family and faction, so you be on your best behavior, Yasa says. Yeah, Issei said, placing his hand on hers. It will work out, Issei. I assume you'll be taking one of the girls with you. Yeah, I'm taking Minerva, since Lilith is sleeping, and she would only allow Imgold or I told her. Well, I guess my parents as well, but they're not here. Very well. Then, stay safe. Love you, Yasa says. Love you, Yahika-san, reaching over and giving her a kiss under the cheek that she gave him one in return and hug without squishing Kanu, and then returned to the sleeping Issei and kissed her on the forehead. Sweet dreams. He then turns his attention to Seraphol, who was watching the interaction and leaned over and also gave her a hug. See you around, Sereni, Issei says. You still see me as your big sister? Seraphol said, reciprocating the hug. You always were. My anger just wouldn't let me see it at the time, Issei said. I understand, just enjoying the fact that he called her Sereni over a formal Seraphol-san that he was calling her earlier. Take care. You're always welcome to visit, Seraphol says. Will do, Issei replied, letting go of the Mao, and turned back to Yasusan. I'll let Vigul know that she can leave with you when you are ready to go, which Yasusan nodded at and headed back to the others and Sir Zex. Seraphol watched him go with a smile on her face. He wasn't mad with her, and then she remembered something Yasusa said. What was he supposed to show you? Seraphol said. Oh, that's something between mother and her child. You'll have to ask him yourself, Yasusa said, smirking, so she had something over Seraphol. Seraphol could only pat out the answer she was given, but figured that Issei would tell her in time. Imgold-chan, you can head back with Yasusan, Orphis. Will you be staying in Kyoto? Sure, I don't see why not, Orphis says. Okay, Minerva, you're with me. He walked to Imgold and leaned down to Lilith to kiss her on the forehead. Sleep tight. Then he kissed Imgold. We'll see you back at the palace, Issei said. No worries. Good night, everyone. Saying farewell to everyone, she also got a hug from Minerva. See you later, Minerva said. Normally, she would have kissed Imgold on the lips, but she didn't want to rile up the boys watching about their relationships just yet, but they did give each other a kiss on the cheek. Of course, Lilith got a little agitating at feeling Minerva getting close to her and mumbled in annoyance. "Oh, shut up," Minerva says, as she could see Lilith give a small smirk and Minerva poked her cheek. "Riser, we'll have to reschedule," Issei says. "That's fine. I'll let them know something came up," Riser said, which rival raised an eyebrow. "Well, Sir Zex, it's your show. Lead the way," Issei says. He then turned to some of the rest of the group. "It's been nice seeing all of your faces, meeting new faces, but we have to go," Issei says. "Ha, we'll fight some other time, after you deal with them," Volley said, nodding towards the Gremory, who were watching. "Shouldn't be too hard for you. That is, if you're as strong as me," Volley said. "Oh, they're the least of my concern. You may be surprised by some tricks that I got," Issei said. "We'll see," Volley replied. "See you, Issei-sama," LeFay said. "It was nice meeting you, Theo." It turned to later, Byoko said. "Later, Issei," Kuroka said. "Try to visit more often," Rasvaisa said. "I trust that you can look out for yourself," Sekigahara replied. "Always do," Issei said. "Right," Sekigahara said, speaking sarcastically. "We'll talk later," Zenobia, shocking the girl as she hoped she would go unnoticed. Right," Zenobia said, blushing. "Definitely have to swing by, dude," Sanji said, pulling up into a brotherly hug. "Will do." He continued to say his goodbyes to the rest of the Seichuri Barrage, including the fist bump from Loop. "Thanks for forgiving my sister," Sona says. "Never needed to. She did nothing wrong. Good luck with your relationship, Tsubaki." "Thanks," Tsubaki said. "Just contact me when you're available," Riser said, giving a handshake to Issei. "Will do." Then he gave Ravel a hug. "We'll talk later." "I'll hold you to that," Ravel said. "I know you will." With his goodbyes, he turned to Sir Zex. "All right, we're ready," Issei said, with Minerva by his side. Imagul and Orpheus had gone back to where Yasa and Seraphol were. As Sir Zex led them out of the meeting room, they gave a wave. Yakuza and Orpheus and Invigold waved back, and Yasa picked up the canoe as they left in a transport circle. Seraphol also waved back with more energy as she went to the Seichuri Barrage as they left. Bali's team left as Sekigahara was able to leave. She remembered something. "I forgot to inform that I delivered the steam deck to Milikus already. He'll figure it out. Eventually," shrugging her shoulders as she left her barrage with her subordinate, Sekigahara did. With no one else around, all that was left in the meeting room was the Gremory group, who had been watching the jovial attitudes of everyone. Rias watched, knowing that Issei was going to meet the niece that she has yet to see, not even through pictures. She also realized that Issei never spared a glance in her direction, and that hurt a little as well. "Rias, are you okay?" Devlin said. "Yeah, just thinking. Azia, Akia, tomorrow you two will speak with Mariama and Kadase. Get them to meet us as soon as possible to train them with the stipulation of Issei not being able to use the boosted gear. We certainly have a chance," Rias said. "You still don't get it," Kiba said. "Then enlighten us, Kiba." She was growing a bit agitated with his attitude. "I already did. Quality over quantity," Kiba says. "Wait," Aaron says, stopping Rias from speaking. "How did he fight on your mission? The necromorphs, I mean." "In a way that would turn your girlfriend on," Kiba said, knowing of Akino's Saruman's tendencies, Issei's brutal fightal style of doing just that. "Har, I don't think he could ever turn me on," Kiba-kun, Akino said. "He wouldn't be trying to when he tears you down," Kiba said, staring down at the hybrid. On Akino's part, she felt a slight arousal, but also fear. She didn't want to believe that her former Kohai would do that. However, times have changed, and part of her wanted to believe that was still Issei, the same one that stared at her breast with that look that now disgusted her. That is, unless Aaron looked at her like that. "I need to go train." "Come on, Gasper," Kiba says. "Wait, I know he's your piece now, but could Gasper offer his assistance to fight? His power would be helpful," Rias says. "No, it wouldn't. Did you forget it took Issei-senpai's blood for me to stabilize my powers? It's a two-way connection, meaning he can shut it off if he chooses, and I would not be participating in this fight." "Sorry," Gasper said, creating a magic circle and just leaving. "There you have it. Like I said, I'm going to train. But know this, when we are in there with him, we are not hunters. We are not the predators. We are the prey." Before making a magic circle and leaving to his own mansion. His final words left the group feeling a bit uneasy, especially Aaron, as he had witnessed Issei's avatar. He didn't want to remember that and decided to leave as well. "Let's go. We already have enough to deal with. With those things being made, and who knows how strong those guys. I'll go speak to my brother about joining us," Aaron said. "I'll come with you. I'd like to check on my father," Akino said, showing some worry. She had no idea what her father experienced. She didn't think Issei was capable of causing such damage after all. Her father's one of the strongest catchers. However, there's a slight inking in the back of her mind, based on Kiba's words, that they didn't know what they were getting into in terms of both Necromorphs but also Issei. She could only hope that he is still the same as the reason or why they abandoned him, betrayed him, and undoubtedly, without knowing, they became the same person as they thought they were better than. Giving their farewells, the hybrid couple left the Gregar, in hopes of calming their minds, having some reinforcements that would put them at ease for the coming battle, not knowing that it might not be enough. Let's all go home. It's been a long day. The meeting gave us some things to think about, Rhea said. Yeah, but Aaron is right. Those guys had some of the gods worrying, Devlin said. Enough to give a pervert those blades, Lunar said. That's true. But we can add those to our bargain later, Devlin says. Nice, Lunar says. He was thinking about taking those blades from Issei. You're right. But right now, we should focus on preparing for the raiding game, Rhea says. We could talk more in the morning. Taking Rhea's hand, they began to head out to the meeting head back to their quarters. Lunar simply wrapped his arms around Azia, and Akia followed after the couple. Since they had a job to do tomorrow, sex was out of the question for tonight. Now, we're with Issei, Minerva, and Serzex. They continued to follow Serzex, but they kept their guard up, just to be safe. Minerva had looked around, checking for any possible trap, while Issei simply watched the back of Serzex's head. They kept walking in silence, no one saying anything until Issei decided to speak. So where are we headed, Mal Lucifer? Issei said. You can call me Serzex, not by my title. We are not in a meeting. Serzex, very well, but you didn't answer my questions. No worries, we're here, Serzex says. As he stopped open the door, following behind Serzex, Issei and Minerva could see that it was a family room. Of course, they sensed multiple magnetic signatures. While they were unfamiliar to Minerva, they were familiar to Issei, as the occupants gave out a gasp at seeing Serzex. Issei need, the mysterious person said. The call alerted Issei, who turned his attention on the redhead missile that was Milicus. Whoa! Hey, Milicus, good to see you, buddy. Then he looked up to see the others that were Valena and Zectodius Gremory and his big sister Graphia Lufage. Issei, Graphia says. Hey, Nissan, it's been a while. Graphia walked towards him slowly, eyeing quizzically, but also knowing at Serzex's for confirmation. Serzex would simply nod at his wife, an unasked question. Her brother was standing right before her. Milicus moved out of the way as Graphia got close to Issei. She placed her hands on his shoulders and eyes welled up. Look at you. You've grown since the last I saw you, Graphia says. It's only been about 18 months. Graphia simply pulled him into a hug. I just can't believe you're here. What are you doing here? She looked towards Serzex, still holding Issei. I came for the factions meeting. I attended with Yasa-san, and I'm supposed to be on my best behavior. Why haven't I heard from you? Issei says. I think you should come greet your niece, Graphia said, taking Issei's hand. Niece? As Graphia pulled him towards a crib. While he was being pulled towards a crib, he gave a nod in greeting the Gremory's patriarchs. Valena looked down in shame, while Zectodius nodded back courteously. They didn't know how to act now that Issei was in front of them. They remembered that night, the night they forgot about him. They were so engrossed in their daughter's romance at the celebration they didn't think about Issei at the time. The one that actually completed the trials of connection with Rheus, not Devlin, which they were reminded of by Renus. The one who went out of his way to their daughter to get thrown to the side. They had gone against their family way. They didn't treat Issei like family and paid the price for it. The clan's reputation went down due to Rhea's actions. She actually quietly dismissed as the Harris, and Milicus is not interested. So they had Rhea's be Harris to the public, but they knew she was not. Unless she was mature in some way or form, it did not help that they were spotty in rating games, barely maintaining an average record. Yes, she's the reason I have not contacted you in months. I'm so sorry, Graphia said. It's fine, Nissan. As he looked in the crib, wow, she looks just like you. The baby had silver hair similar to Graphia, but she had Serzex's blue eyes. Issei just watched her wriggle around the crib. Minerva also watched with a smile on her face. May I? Issei said. Of course. As she bent down and picked up the baby, she called her mother to pick her up. Here you go, little one. This is your uncle. She carefully passed the baby off to Issei, who was memorized by his niece as he held her. For Minerva, she was not surprised that the baby warmed up to Issei immediately. The baby reached out for Issei's nose and cheek, but was not too grabby. Hi, my name's Issei. I'm your uncle. For the first time that Serzex had seen Issei, he was smiling as he talked to the baby. What's yours? Her name is Aria, Milicus says. Aria? Issei replied. We named her after you, in a sense, Serzex says. Aria is a name of a Welsh origin that means snow. After me? Issei says. Well, you are the bearer of the Welsh dragon, Dreg. Oh, right, Issei said as he held the baby. Excuse me, but who is your companion? Zectodius said. Forgive me. My name is Minerva Orland. shaking Vilena in Zectodia's hand while Grafia looked on. And who are you to my little brother? Grafia said. She could be your sister-in-law. Nisan, be nice, Issei said, rocking her in his arms. Really? My name is Milicus Gregory, giving a bow to Minerva. I've heard about you, Milicus. Nice to put a name to the face. I just pictured a miniature Sir Zex and seems I was right, though you have your mother's eyes. Thank you, Milicus says. How did you two meet? Grafia replied. She stalked me. Thought it was one of your guys, only to find out that she was once with a hextramat. She proved her loyalty and has been with me since. That's irresponsible of you, Grafia said, a bit worried that he was with someone that was once their enemy. She earned my trust. You'll have to meet Invigold later, Issei said. Invigold? She's a descendant of the Mount Leviathan, but similar to Vali in a sense that she is not looking for world domination. She's rather more peaceful. Sir Zex said, amazing. Vilena says, just in awe who has met as his time away. I've never heard of the Orland clan. Are you similar to Kuroka? Zectodia said. As a demon that doesn't have a master, well, yes and no. I'm an artificial demon. I was once a human before a hexadat. Wanted to see the other means to make supernatural beings. I see, Zectodia says. Here. As he handed Iria to Minerva, who was unfamiliar with holding a baby, this could be your auntie. You'll meet your other one later. He began showing Minerva how to hold the baby properly. It almost made Grafia laugh as the black-haired woman struggled a bit, so she gave Issei a break and began to help Minerva herself. If I may ask, are you helping the factions with the threat? Vilena says. No, he's not, although he's been helping indirectly. It has not been our faction. Should we require his help, it will be on his terms, Sir Zex says. That is understandable. If I may, I'd like to apologize, Issei, for how we treated you, Zectodia said. Same here. We completely forgot about you on that night, and we're too focused on your daughter's happiness. I get it, Issei says. Yes, but no. You were her fiancé, Zectodia says, and unfortunately, I still am, since Mr. Devlin has yet to beat me in combat for her hand, similar to what I did when I faced Riser, but it is somewhat of a win-win for me, Issei says. How so? Well, at the end of this week, there will be a rating game between me and the Biel and the Grembury Parages. If they win, he will get her hand. I don't care. If I win, I'll be free of her. However, there are most likely other implications. If they win, for example, I would not be surprised if he chose to claim the boosted gear for himself. In addition, your daughter's bastard of a knight may try to claim my weapons, and possibly my woman as well for himself, if they win. How are you sure of this, Zectodia says? According to Kiba, Devlin believes that he would be better carrier for Drake than me, Issei says, which I can confirm, because he has requested to go find you, claiming that you ran away, and if you didn't want to be a part of Supernatural, then you should leave the boosted gear behind. I have denied all the requests, as I too hurt you that night, cheering for your betrayal. If it wasn't for your sister, my wife opening my eyes, my daughter would have never been born. I truly am sorry to you, Issei. I was just so happy for Rias. I didn't think of you either. Things became frosty between Grafia and I, even Milicus as well. I didn't know what to do, Sir Zex says. Issei looked over at Milicus, who simply looked away. I'm guessing this had something to do with your fallout with your sister, Issei said. Yes. There were times Grafia would leave not knowing that it was to talk to you. I was a little suspicious, but I trusted my wife. Considering what we have been through, unfortunately, I guess Rias heard a tail end of one of your conversations, where Grafia told you that she loved you, and Rias believed that she was talking to a lover. She began to yell at my wife, and I wasn't going to stand for the name-calling on either side, Sir Zex says, so he decided to confront me about who I was speaking to, Grafia said, and I told him that it was you and how you felt that night and the day when I went to go see you. She also told me that I was lucky to have my sister. Well, lost her brother, I would hurt not only you, but my family as well. I can only apologize for my disrespect against you and take you into account, Sir Zex says. We're not asking for forgiveness, but just to be given the chance to apologize for our disrespect and neglect you that night. It haunts us. But this gives us some closure knowing that we could apologize. I'd like to ask, how are your parents? They're fine. My mother is ecstatic to have Lilithchan back as well without me needing to go back to Kyoto not to get traced. The little rebel. Currently they are in Hyakko right now. I made a surprise visit to Kyoto to pass the time, and then I was going to take Invigold and Minerva to Ko, but we stumbled upon Kiba and Gasper in Kyoto. I wasn't aware of the new base being founded. Normally Yasusan would inform me, but I guess Kiba and Gasper there, or rather that you were sending some demons to assist. She didn't want me to get spotted. I joined them on the mission to get some disturbing news and what they found. I'm guessing it has to do with the yokai that was gruesomely transformed into a necromorph. Sir Zex says, yeah, he was a family friend. Issei said, an uncle to Kano-chan and a mentor to me. me. I'm sorry for your loss, Trihexa says, to which Issei simply nodded. To relieve the tension in the room, Issei decided to speak about his promotion to Milikis and Gravia. Oh, Nissan, guess I got promoted. To what class? Gravia said, Ultimate. That's awesome, Issei, as if in agreement. Arya cooed happily as well. She seems to agree as well, Minerva says, while still holding the baby, but not as awkwardly, thanks to Gravia's help. Congratulations, though. It should be expected since Volley was promoted to the same rank earlier, Gravia said. What? There were a promotion ceremony sometime after you left, since he did not know exactly when Issei left. Volley was honored, and the people wondered where you were to receive the same award, since it was both the Celestial Dragons that helped, Sectodius said. It didn't help that Devlin was parading around with Eurus, which resulted in our backlash, but we deserved it, Valena says. We did not take credit for your achievements, which probably upset our daughter a little, Sectodius said. Why is that? When a demon's Parage members are honored, that demon would also receive recognition. Since all of your feats were as her pawn, she would receive recognition for helping the pieces of her rise in the rankings, Valena says. It would have helped her gain a promotion. But we denied it. We already did enough damage to you. We won't deserve a freeload off your success. As a result, she did not get any recognition, same with her former rook, since they traded her away. The Agarias clan got the claim and recognition, even though it was when she was our daughter's rook that she helped you perform the seal to put away the Trihexa. I see, Issei said. That was one way to stick it to Rias. She could not mooch off his success to rise in rank, nor she could do the same to Rosvisa. It was likely she only got recognition for Kiba and possibly Gasper, Issei said. Are you not going to tell them what the Trihexa told you? Drake says. No, I don't plan on it right now. Very well. Remember, I'm here if you need me, Drake says. Duly noted, Issei replied. Needless to say, she was not happy that we declined to accept rewards for your achievements, and she could not touch it, since it was revealed that you were no longer her pawn, Sectodius said. She wanted to have her cake and eat it. We realized how we all threw you away, and we had to ponder. Devlin had all the rights to go for Rias, but didn't. An easy example would be that he didn't challenge Riser himself back then. Of course, you may not be aware, but he was similar to Sire Org and didn't have control of his clan's power like his brother did. After that, Rias chose you for the Trials of Connection, not him, but we threw it all away on that one night, so we were accepting your repercussions of our actions. We cannot claim that anything regarding your shows, the former Opie Dragon and the current Crimson Jacket. Valena says, we were hit with a lawsuit on that, Sectodius says, but as my wife said, we had it coming. Then our ancestor woke up and gave Rias and Devlin the ultimatum after they failed the Trials of Connection. She may stop her relationship or continue it. By continuing it, she removed as Harris, though the public doesn't know that. Oji-sama has been training me just in case, Milikis says. Honestly, I don't really want that responsibility, so I'm not really interested. You have to be ready for anything, even taking on new responsibilities that you don't want. Issei said, I didn't want to be considered the pillar of the factions, but I did what I could until I was done. Even your father had to rise up to be Mal Lucifer. It might not have been a responsibility that he wanted, but he's owning up to it. Remember that, Milikis. I understand, Issei, Milikis said. It relieved the Grimory Parchers because they knew they had a chance if Milikis was to rise as heir, if Rias did not shape up a little more. Graphia and Minerva smiled at Issei, giving Milikis that little lecture because they knew he wanted Milikis to be ready for anything. He also did belittle Serzex, when he could have took his own upbringing to use examples for... He also did not belittle Serzex, when he could have and took his own upbringing to use examples for Milikis to follow. Serzex also smiled because he could see the maturity in Issei as he spoke, very different from the one he had met. He could see why Issei did not worry about using the boosted gear. The media should be interesting leading up to the rating game. Oh, and I got your gift, Milikis says. Gift? Oh, Issei says here. Remember that he told Siaveri to help him get a Steam Deck for Milikis. Guess she bypassed what I asked and gave it to him herself. Thank you so much, Milikis says. No worries, but remember, you're going to have responsibilities, so don't spend too much time playing video games, Issei said. I will, Milikis says. Good. As he went back to Minerva and take Aria from her, Rias seemed to enjoy being in her uncle's arms as she giggled a little and smiled at her. You know, I figured that Rias would want to be here. She enjoyed kids, at least when I knew her, Issei said. Actually, she has yet to meet Aria. I don't believe she is a good example as she needs to mature, Graphia said. I understand, but she is still family to you. He shifted Ariana to his arms. She, referring to Ariana, is the reason why you're fighting, why we're fighting, along with Milikis, Kano, and Lilichan. They're a part of our legacies, and we want to give them a better future, so let her see her niece. You'll likely see a change, but maybe after the rating game though, Issei says. Why then? Gravia says. Because she's going to lose. Isn't that right? Whittled Irina, talking to a baby voice as the baby cooed again. Your uncle is going to beat your auntie like pow pow, tapping the baby's nose, and as she took her head in a little wiggle. Don't instill violence into my child's head, Gravia said. Issei simply stuck out his tongue at his big sister. It made the occupants laugh, which made Irina giggle even more, and amazed the people in the room of how he matured. They were still glad to see that childish aspect of him, the one that could make anyone smile. It hurt them to see how they abandoned him, how they did so much for them and asked for nothing in return. Well, it's getting late, Issei said. We'll have to leave. He turned back to Irina, bye-bye, tickling under her chin as she grasped his finger. Can you say bye? Bah! Irina says, close enough, Issei replied, smiling at the baby girl and then handing her to her mother. But think about it. I will, Gravia said, taking Irina and giving Issei a hug. Of course, Issei took the opportunity to pow pow on Irina's nose, causing her to scrunch her little nose again, and she tapped his nose, or at least try to say pow as well. However, her pow sounded like pa, but it was to be expected as she wasn't articulate yet. Issei moved away as Minerva said goodbye, as well as Aria and Gravia's help. Waved goodbye, Issei respectively shook hands with Victorious and was going to do the same to Valena, but she gave him a hug instead. It surprised him, so he simply sighed and just patted her on the back, calmed her down, as he heard a sniffle from her. After her, he got a hug from Milicus as well. I'm going to miss you, Issei. Milicus says, hey, it's not going to be like 18 months, so cheer up, alright? Issei said, okay. Remember, you're also a big brother now. You gotta do right by her. You gotta help your mom and dad out as well. Don't put it all on your grandparents to take care of her. It's another one of your responsibilities, Issei said. Got it, Milicus replied. Good, Issei said, ruffling his hair. I'll hold you to it. Minerva also shook hands with Sectodius and got a hug from Valena as she said goodbye to them as well. If you will, follow me please, Serzex says. Issei and Minerva nod as followed Serzex out of the room and waved goodbye to everyone. Gravia was wiggling Irina's little arm for the baby to wave back, making the two visitors smile. As they exited the room, Serzex began to close the door and his face became neutral because he was no longer in Irina's nor Milicus's and Gravia's vision. However, before the door fully closed, he saw Valena collapse on the couch in the room and cover her face with her hands. Lictodius also sat down, holding comfort his wife, patting her head, his shoulder, and kissing the top of her forehead. Minerva watched the scene and also looked at Issei's reactions. When the door was fully closed, Serzex began to move down the hall, and the two followed behind. They noticed that they were going down the same hallway, and he did not sense any of the gremmery around. He could tell that Serzex was sort of taking them back to the meeting room. Well, thank you for coming, but Issei, may I speak with you privately, Serzex says. Issei turned his attention to Minerva. Go back and don't wait. Get some rest. I'll be alright, Issei said. Oh, I trust you, just not him, Minerva says, nodding towards Serzex, who went over a secret compartment in the meeting room and was pouring himself a drink. I know, I can handle him. Go see how Yakus is doing and check on the girls, okay? Issei said, okay. Do I get some love if I do good? Minerva says, having a twinkle of lust in her eyes. Not tonight. Maybe from Immigold if she's not with Lilithchan. You know she would not be up for it, Minerva says. I know, but go check on them. I'll see you later. You are the boss. Giving him a kiss, which left a strand of saliva between her lips. Watch yourself. I will, Issei said, as Minerva nodded and created a transport circle that took her back to Yasus's place. You have a wonderful girlfriend, Serzex says. He sat down on the former seat and the glass scotch by his side. Yeah, she is. So what did you want to talk about, Issei said. I just wanted to thank you for what you've done for my family, Serzex says. That's it? Nothing about preventing me from beating down your little sister or figuring out how do I plan to combat her, Issei said. No, well, I still care for my sister to an extent. I'm not much of a siscon as I once was. Look at where that got me. My family is fractured, Issei. We can only blame ourselves for not taking your side. I nearly lost my wife and son. Then after Rias called my wife a whore, I could see how spoiled we made her, and I understand Grafia is reluctant to not let her see Aria. Well, you should have expected that when you gave her everything without teaching her the meaning of no. Look at how Sono turned out. Issei said, yeah, I understand the concept of spoiling her came from my grandmother. She spoiled our father when he was growing up. Serzex says, how come you were not spoiled then? Issei said, I guess I was more due to my mother's teaching, Serzex replied. The Biel clan is different from the Gremry clan, so that makes sense, Issei said. Yeah, they are. You know, Devlin has been trying to get Diasher to tell him how you beat him. Serzex says, taking a sip out of his drink. Oh, really? Issei replied, yes. But from what I can see, Diasher would simply smirk at him, and from what I have seen today from you, I know you're going to win, Serzex says. Yeah, sure. Issei said, not caring about the rating game. You don't believe me, do you? No, not really, Issei said. That's understandable. So you were close to the victim. He was still uncomfortable talking with Issei, so he kept switching topics. You mean Captain Ryoga? I was, but he's gone now, Issei said. I'm sorry for that, Surzek says, taking another sip. Yeah, but Arias will get what's coming to him, Issei said. In time, Surzek replied. I know. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or do you plan to drink in your sorrows while your mother is crying in the other room? Issei says she's crying out of guilt. Minus that one night in the backlash, she loved you like a son. For a parent to lose a child is heartbreaking. She also missed how you've grown these past 18 months. She also lost contact with your mother, same with our fathers. Well, each parent chose their child, Issei said. I guess. I'll be honest, Issei. I don't want Iria nor Milicus to become like Rhesus in their teenage years, Zerzek says. Then learn from your mistakes. It's the only way we can grow as people. I was ridiculed for my perverted behavior and was betrayed because of it, Issei said. I'm well aware of that, Zerzek replies. So quit your bitching about how they would turn up, when you control it by being there to help them the proper morals. Plus, they have a strict mom and my big sister, so they will never turn out like Rias. For the first time in the evening, Serzex finally laughed. You knew how grateful you could be. You're right. I shouldn't have worried. Thank you for that, Issei. So can I go now? Issei said. He was a bit bored with the conversation. Yes, and Issei, I am sorry. Congratulations on your promotion. It was long overdue. Finishing the rest of his drink. Thanks for speaking with me. Have a good night, Serzex says. Issei gave a nod and transported himself into Yasa's palace. As he left, Serzex let a tear roll down his eye. If only I was aware more that night, Serzex says. If only, but no time to dwell in the past, Graphia said as she made her presence known. But he is right. I will never have our kids become what Rias has become currently. I know, Serzex says, chuckling. Now come on. Your mother has just finished crying, and Arya has been laid down. Milicus is watching over her as she walks over to begin to massage Serzex's shoulder. In time, he will come around as my husband. You are his brother-in-law, just not in the way you originally hoped for, Graphia said. That's true, Serzex replied. Come on. It's been quite a day. Let's go rest it off. Your parents went home once your mother finished crying, as she picked up to his glass and took his hands. Okay, and Graphia, despite all what's happened, thank you for being my wife, Serzex says, as she led him into the room. You have your flaws, but we're not meant to be perfect. Soon as your sister and her barrage members will realize that, maybe one day they'll apologize for the hurt they caused my brother. I agree, but thank you, Serzex says. You're welcome, as the two went to check out for the night. Now in Kyoto, Issei had transported himself into the landing of Yasa's palace and let out a sigh as he sent his weapons to his personal storage dimension. He decided to go back and check on the girls, sensing their auras. He found that Orpheus was with Lilith and they were sleeping. Upon checking on Invigold, she was with Minerva, but it seems nothing happened between the two, as Issei didn't smell sex in the air. He decided to head to where he could find Yasa and noticed that she was in the dining area while Kano was in Yasa's room. He decided to head where Yakuza was and to check on her as she was doing. Upon reaching the dining hall, he found Yakuza sitting at the table, drinking tea. She had a faraway look. She knew Issei was there, just she didn't want to address him as he entered. I would ask if everything's okay, but I know it's not, Issei said. As he walked up to her, Yakuza set her tea down and got up from her seat. She walked to Issei and held him close as she began to cry. Issei hugged her back, letting tears stain his tunic. He understood the reason for her tears and just let out at her system. They stayed while in silence, the only sounds being Yakuza's sobs as Issei rubbed her back. She shook slightly as she wept and sniffled. Issei led her back to her seat. So she sat down. Her legs were slightly wobbled, but she managed. I'm sorry, Issei said. You don't need to be. I'm guessing Kano-chan didn't take it well either. No, she cried herself to sleep as a fresh set of tears went down her eyes. I have never seen her so broken. I can't imagine what? Issei, as she reached over to Grace, says, I don't want to see my daughter cry again. If she does, it must be tears of joy. Yakuza says, I understand that, Issei replied. You are a part of my family now. Don't die again. Train hard. I do not know how strong those beings are, but I'm sure they are stronger than me. Don't let yourself be captured and become one of them like Ryoga. She replaced her hand on his cheek. Oh, my son. I remember how I would tease you about producing a child together, and Kano had a crush on you. Now I see you as the son that I wanted, and Kano has a male role model in her life to look up to. As your mother, I need you to promise that no matter the mission, you come back to us safe. Can you promise me that? Yes, I can do that, Issei says. She moved her chair up to him and cupped his face in her hands and made him look in her eyes. I don't believe you, Issei says. What? Issei said. You hesitated, then looked at his left arm. Drake? Yes, your majesty, Drake says, as the Busagir appeared. Make sure he means it, glaring at Issei. Partner, you need to answer with conviction. Tell us, do you plan to win the rating game? Drake says. I intend to, Issei replied. Good, and remember what we said. We will do, Drake says. Yeah, Issei said, looking at Yakuza-san. I have no intention of dying. Not until when my little sister's futures are at stake. Along with my little brother and niece, Arius went after my friends and family. I will not let them get away with it. He will burn into the ground for the monstrosities that he created. He will burn for mutilating Captain Ryogo into that thing. So I will not die. I will come back from any mission that stands in front of me. I will come back to you, Kano-chan, to Lilith-chan, to Minerva, to Invigold, to Orpheus, to Milikis, to Graphia, to Aria, to Sigivera, to Sona, to Sanji, to Ross Visa, to Gravel, to Irina, to my parents, to my friends and my family. You have my word. Now she could... The fire burning in his amber eyes. Good, Yakuza said, as he glared softened as she pulled him into her bosom and kissed him on the head, because the world needs you in it for us to have any hope. Issei simply remained in his mother's embrace. She was going or a lot of loss of Ryoga. He made his attempt to pull away until she let him go as the mother held her son, knowing it was possible to lose him, just like they had lost a friend like Ryoga. Now then, I have some good news today, so show me what you got for them, Yakuza said. He let go of his head. Of course, I hid them in my storage dimension when we went out on the mission. Wait, Kasan, can you check around the area? I don't want a surprise to be spoiled, Issei said. Of course, Yakuza said. As she concentrated her orb for the foreign emotions, she knew Issei was asking this because he could not detect Invigold's presence. But Yakuza could detect her emotions, and her curiosity would give her away if she was around. You're clear? Nice. Invigold was with me when I got them, but it only piqued her interest, so I didn't want her stealing a glance yet. As he brought out 5 ring boxes from a magic circle, what do you think? Yakuza looked at each one with interest and her usual, Something Issei knew she did when expecting something, usually when making sure Kano hadn't had anything mischievous. So, which ring belongs to who? Oh. The circular one is Irina's, the teardrop is Ravel's, the solo square-like one is Invigold, and the oval-like one is Minerva's, and the one with 3 is Ross Vice's. Irina's, it shows all the rings. My, how impressive. I'm curious behind each one, Yakuza said. Oh well, the circular one is called Halo Frame Setup, only for the best of my angel, Issei said. And my first mate, Yakuza says, smirking. Right. Blushing and remembering the aspect, hers was the most expensive. Next, the teardrop because Phoenix ears, so it was the best suited for Ravel. For the sharp-looking oval is Minerva because she intuitive with sharp mind, and it looked like she had a claw because she can be feisty. Oh, I can expect something similar for Kuroka then? Yakuza says, what? You may not have realized it now, but the attraction is there between you two. I saw you two interacted. You can't hide your emotions from me, dear. You were interested, even if you didn't show it, Yakuza says. Every word that she said only made Issei blush. Yakuza-san laughed at his embarrassment. Now, how about the last two? Yakuza said. Well, picking the singular square-like one, the jeweler told me that this was called a priceless cuts. It seemed right to go fit with Invigold as she was royalty. If you're still with Rias, would this have been the type of ring that you have gotten for her? Yakuza said. Yeah, if she didn't abandon me, she is no longer my princess. That right belongs to Invigold, or maybe she's my queen. But then again, you could also be Minerva. As he entered a thinking pose. Are you talking about them as your women or as your pieces? Yakuza says, a little bit of both, but looking back on it, I would say that they're all my queen. As women would be treated equally, not by rank. I can worry about the pieces later, especially when you haven't gotten them yet. Yakuza says, damn it, you're right. As he face parted into the table. Oh, how could I forget that? Issei says, calm down, you'll get your chance, but I am proud of you. All the more reason to keep your promise, because I won't be able to promise them if I die. Issei says, yes, but also I would not be able to see you get married. Do you know how privileged it is for a parent to see their child get married? And you could have had your sister be a flower girl. It's pleased to see Issei Yakuza smile again, considering all that she had to see tonight, knowing that not only Ryoga was turned, but there were others as well. Others that Issei and Kiba had to put down that base. He could only hope that they didn't go back to that base. You're spacing out, you know, Yakuza said. Sorry, it's just nice to see you smile again, Kasan, after all that has happened tonight. Thank you, my dear, but there's another issue to discuss. What's that? With you no longer hiding, I'm sure Lilith will want to go off to see your parents, so Kanoa will lose her play pal. Oh, that's right. I hadn't thought about that. Oh man, Kanoa is going to be sad. Perhaps, but I'm sure your parents and I will figure it out. You shouldn't worry about it. You got another pending issues to attend, pointing at her rings. I assume that Miki will want to see them when she returns from her trip. That is, if her attention isn't on Lilith most of the time, knowing how much of a mother doted on the dragon Loli, since she looked like a child. Ha! It's what mothers do. So how was your meeting, niece? You knew? Of course. Why do you think Sirzex was talking to me? He was asking for advice on his baby girl, since I had one myself. Don't see why he didn't just ask his mother, Issei said. That could have been raised a possibility of another Rias, and splitting his marriage with Graphias, who I assume you got to see again. Yeah. Explains why I haven't heard from her in months. Iria was so precious to hold, though it surprised me that she has never met Rias. Issei said, I heard about that, but that will change maybe after our rating game. Maybe Rias will open her damn eyes and see how it is not a game anymore, and will fight for the baby's future. Issei said, how nice of you. What do you mean? You showed maturity. You could have supported Graphia's stance and never let Iria know that she ever had an aunt. Although it would have been petty, and you're not the petty type. Imagine how she will feel when she learns that you're the reason she gets to hold her niece. It'll be showing her that she didn't leave a broken man behind, I guess. But as you saw the Gaia's Kasan, one of them was made from Hades. He's one of the top 10 strongest beings. Imagine if he gets that strong. And who knows how strong Arius is. I can't let that little girl grow up knowing there is a bastard like that around. Well, you can't do things alone. You're going to need a team. But you've already got covered with your friends. Now come on, let's get to bed. I'm sure you would like to start some of your training. Good idea. I just know who got to go to, Issei says. I'm sure you do. As she stood up at her, and Issei did the same, but they also sealed the rings back in the storage dimension. They walked toward Yakuza's room first, of course talking about his upcoming rating game. I can't believe you let yourself get provoked. Hey, he talked about you in a bad way and insulted my sisters and woman. I wasn't going to let that slide. Besides, Sirzex gave me the okay. How so? I looked in his direction and he gave me a nod before I punched him. Fair enough, Yakuza said as they reached her room. Get a good rest tonight, okay? I will. And I will talk to her tomorrow, nodding the inside, and the sleep can know. I will hold my promise to you, Kasan. Issei said, I know you will. As she pulled his head down for him to kiss, sleep well. You too, Kasan. Good night. Good night, Issei. As she entered her room. Issei walked towards the room as he felt about training, and Drake could feel it. So we're going back to the underworld, Drake says. Of course, I need to prepare for this rating game. Oh, I thought you were going back to your pieces that you'd wanted to collect. Ha! No, I'll worry about them later, Issei said. He reached in his room and saw that neither Imagul nor Minerva snuck in when he was talking with Yakuza. It just meant that he could have a little bed to himself, and he gave it time to himself. So, he got into bed for himself for the time in months after he changed into his sleepwear. I wonder what he could teach me next, Issei says. Ha! He would be impressed by how far you've come, especially since you know that you can enter the underworld freely. Plus, if he beats me up too much, I can go to the Citri Hospital. Maybe I can hang with Sanji. Hopefully, I can hang with Rhea. Or I can go to the Aguras district and train with Rose. What about the blue-haired one? Oh yeah, Zenobia. I'll need someone to train weapons with, so she'll do. I need to use Murasama Blade more. Isn't your angel better suited with katanas? Drake says. I want to surprise her. I'm sure she'll be at the rating game. Understandable. Are you going to tell Minerva what Azazel said? Drake says. I'll do that tomorrow, as he let out a yawn. For now, let's get some rest. After all, we're going back to Tanin. Ha! Indeed. As the dragon and his partner fell into a slumber for the battle ahead. And that is where the end of this chapter 12 stops. Thank you so much for everyone tuning in. Remember to like the video. Remember, if you guys want to become a channel member and know exactly when I upload / my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member, a Patreon member. It's been absolutely amazing. Without further ado, Spartanic Arts DxD out.